The woman was trapped in space for 3 days and finally opened the cabin door before she starved to death. However, there was no trace of a person on the spaceship. As the spacesuit drifted by, the woman learned that the whole spaceship had disappeared out of the blue. What made her even more desperate was that a group of strange extraterrestrial objects were just lurking on the power source of the spaceship, constantly devouring the survivors. In the future world, humans have colonized the entire solar system. However, due to the expansion of the population, the human power has changed dramatically. The United Nations controls a resource-rich planet, the independent regime controls Mars, while another small planet, the ancient star, gathers all the workers at the bottom. They have no power, no armed forces, and are always oppressed by the Earth and Mars humans. The air and water there are comparable to gold, but with the depletion of resources, the situation of the three forces balancing each other is already falling apart. A great star war is about to break out, and in this case, the explorer Miller, who lived in the ancient star, suddenly received a mysterious mission. After learning that it was a mission from the Earth, Miller did not want to accept it, but the boss said that as the native resident of the ancient star, he was more familiar with the local situation than the police sent from the Earth. Then he announced the mission to Miller and asked him to go find a girl named Julie. She is the daughter of the chairman of the Earth Mao Group. Not long ago, she joined an ancient star organization called OPA and then lost contact. At this moment, Miller became interested. It turned out that in the ancient star, the newly born human beings grew up in a weightless environment, and their bodies had already changed and could not adapt to the gravity of the Earth. This also made the people of the small planet generation become unrecognized humans. Although they have taken a lot of resources for the planet, they still come to suppress it in time. If it is not fast enough, the water and air will be cut off. In the end, some people who could not stand the oppression set up the OPA, the Outer Planet Alliance. They are committed to resisting the Earth and promoting the independence of small planets. Miller is a small planet man, but he is not interested in these. On the contrary, he is the daughter of the Earth's richest man. As an Earth man, why would you join an organization that resists the Earth? This confused Miller, so he took on the task, came to Julie's residence and copied the schedule in the room. However, he did not find any clues, only to know that the other party has a private spaceship with a narrow back. Miller had to continue to investigate, but when Miller investigated the case, the situation of the ancient star became more and more difficult. The original plan was to deliver water to the ancient star. After Caterpillar, a steamship, knew about the situation of the second ship on the ship, he hurriedly came to check. When he saw that his colleague's arm was broken, he did not show any surprise. In today's world, high-quality fake liquid has been mass-produced and even has the technology of regeneration of the body. Horton just comforted a few words and began his patrol today. But when he came to Da Fu's room, he saw Da Fu panicking, stepping on the soil on the ground, and fantasizing about returning to the Earth. It turned out that Da Fu had been drifting in space for many years, and there was a problem with his spirit. Without a choice, the captain could only send him to treatment. Seeing that Da Fu was in need, the captain then promoted Horton to Da Fu and assisted him in managing Caterpillar. However, after thinking for a while, the captain coldly issued an order to delete the travel diary. Just because there is a crisis everywhere, no one can guarantee that this information is not the bait of the Star Pirate. Moreover, if the trip is delayed and the water cannot be sent to the ancient star in time, the people above will inevitably be in crisis. Although Horton did not say much, but in the face of human considerations, at midnight, Horton finally went straight to the crew and restored the deleted player diary. Wanting to see if the information is reliable, a woman's plea was heard on the radio. This made Horton more difficult to ignore. In the end, under the balance of good and evil, he still restored the diary and uploaded the message to the headquarters. Little did he know that his behavior would bring a great disaster to the crew. The next day, when the captain arrived, he found that the deleted diary had been restored. Although the captain was angry, he could only suppress his anger and helplessly ordered the cargo ship to turn. This made the crew completely dumbfounded. It turned out that the target of the warship was not them at all, but their mothership. In a brilliant fire, all the people on the ship, including Caterpillar and all the people on the ship, were buried alive, watching the mothership disappear in the universe. Horton finally shouted and left silently, hoping that the other party would take the opportunity to escape. Horton was furious and said that he would rush over to die with him, but they didn't even have a weapon. How could they be rivals? Naomi forcibly shut down the engine, successfully preventing Horton from doing stupid things and killing the rest of the crew. Now the top priority is to repair the oxygen supply in advance and then send out an emergency signal to wait for rescue and lose the attack of the mothership. If no one is rescued in a few weeks, they can only wait here to die. Fortunately, the oxygen device was successfully repaired, allowing them to live a few more days. In order to continue to send signals for as long as possible, Engineer Naomi instructed everyone to dismantle all power equipment and use all the power of the ship to supply the signal transmitters. However, they all did this. The signal sent was still too weak. Naomi suddenly remembered the bait launch device she had found on the Horton, and maybe she could use it to amplify the signal. As a result, when she opened the launcher, she was surprised to find that it was equipped with the top military technology of Mars. This is even more evidence that the pirates did not attack them at all, but the military fleet of the Mars Republic. But there are still many doubts. As an icebreaker, there is no reason to be hit by a military warship, but it's no use just thinking about it here. Everyone can only pick up the launcher and wait for rescue. At the same time, on the other hand, Miller's investigation has fallen into a bottleneck. Because of his identity as an ancient star lander, he is always discriminated against by other planets. There is no effective clue at all. There is only a flight information of the Beijing Xiaobei, but when he went to the hangar to look for it, he didn't find it at all. Instead, he learned that Julie's final itinerary was to board the Mars, and before leaving, he had argued with someone at the dock that Miller would come to the crew list and start investigating the information of the crew members. Unknowingly, the Mars at this time has long been turned into chicken powder in space, and on the Mars, we haven't seen Julie's figure. And during Miller's investigation, the Horton and others on the shuttle finally received the previous rescue experience and pointed out the major suspicion of the Mars Republic. It is said that if they die, it must be the Mars. This is undoubtedly a three-way relationship for the old Jiaozhou. Once again, there was a fire. After sending these, he began to quietly wait for the arrival of Tanagier. Soon, the warship came to their side. Under the capture of the shuttle, they came to the inside of the warship. As the steel door was opened, the Mars Army arrested Horton and others and began to quarantine for interrogation. It's just that Horton's information has already been sent out. Now, the entire solar system has received the news. After learning about the situation on the ancient star, the director convened a meeting to discuss it. The ancient star itself is managed by the Earth. Now, the news is spreading. It is likely to cause chaos on the ancient star. So, the director asked them to be well prepared. And Miller, who also came to the meeting, found the director and told him the clues he had recently investigated. But what's the big secret? So, Miller wanted to continue the investigation, but was stopped by the director. Because of the current situation, they have to save time to deal with the chaos that will break out on the ancient star at any time. But Miller didn't listen at all. He found it directly afterwards. The information of Cantwell also spread to the Earth. As a senior member of the United Nations, he had already warned the Mars Republic. Now, there is really a problem. He can't wait to find the Secretary General and think that all this is a series of events created by Mars and the OPA. Mars provides technology to make the ancient star water deficient and then let the OPA incite the public. In the end, Mars took the excuse of pacifying the rebellion to send troops to occupy the ancient star. On the other hand, Horton, who was arrested by the Mars Republic, was interrogated by the other party. After the review and guidance of the matter, Horton finally realized his hastiness and learned that Naomi was possibly an OPA member. The captain asked Horton to live-stream the whole universe to withdraw his complaint and use Naomi as a scapegoat to calm the people in this incident. He found the members of Mars who had lost their lives. This made him think that the OPA kidnapped Julie and had an unspeakable secret. And just when Miller was investigating, his assistant was surrounded by the OPA in this turmoil and was cruelly pinned to the wall. Unknowingly, Miller sent Beachy's remains to the forensic department for autopsy. Then, according to the information he had, he came to the bar where Beachy often went out. As expected, he learned that Beachy was still a data pioneer in the dark and specialized in selling some stolen, important information. And the forensic department also found a memory card on the body. After Miller took the memory card, he hurriedly called his assistant, but no one answered the phone. He didn't know that his assistant had already gone around the haunted door. At the same time, Horton was still arguing with the captain of Mars. The captain hoped that he would frame Naomi for being an OPA member, and he also framed Naomi for the destruction of Kant. But just when the two were arguing, the mysterious unknown spaceship had already approached quietly and launched an attack on Donner. Fortunately, the captain reacted quickly, which prevented the other party from succeeding. The situation was instantly heated up, and both sides won, and this news soon spread to Earth. After Beachy received Donner's battle report, she wanted to send a fleet to support her, but because the location was too far away, the fleet needed 2 days to get there. It was probably the only way to collect corpses for everyone. But Donner had no choice but to fight alone. Fortunately, the weapons on the ship were also quite advanced. The powerful firepower of the track cannon instantly destroyed a small warship of the enemy. However, what the captain didn't expect was that the enemy also had powerful track cannons, and even the smallest warships were equipped with the same firepower. This is far beyond the technology of Mars. After destroying the other party's 4 warships, Donner was finally hit hard. In the end, he had to shut down the main engine to maintain operation. And in this battle, Horton's companion was also seriously injured and died. But now Donner can't protect himself because the mysterious warship was not completely destroyed. In order to prevent being tracked down, after escaping the enemy's sight, Naomi shut down the main engine to cover them. Also, because of the heavy casualties, the few people were completely in trouble. Without Donner's guidance, they rushed into the Mars territory and would definitely be blown up. But in the universe, they would be caught sooner or later. Just when they were about to end the war, a message suddenly came in. The name of the person on the phone is John. John was once in charge of the Moleskine space station. Because he knew he was dismissed from his post, he wanted to pull him in. And after learning about the other party's identity, Ellie's heart began to beat fast, because John's reputation is not good. John, who was a soldier at the time, once destroyed a space station that had already surrendered. It is absolutely necessary to have some psychological qualities, but Horton tried his best to persuade everyone. And Porter also told Julie that it turned out that Julie had found him, let her help find a data foreman. Porter was not clear about the details. When he learned of the new clue, Miller hurried to the data foreman's store, but he didn't find anything there. Just when he was about to leave, he suddenly saw the mechanical mouse on the table. Just when he was investigating Julie's room, there was exactly the same thing there. In case of emergency, Miller hid the card in his hat, but when he just walked out, he was attacked. He was taken away by 2 people. When he woke up again, he accidentally found that it was Doss who kidnapped him. When he just showed up, Doss asked Miller what clue he found. It seems that the real situation is not like what Doss said. It has nothing to do with him. Fortunately, Miller had a sense of defense before. The storage card was not found. Now, Miller has no discovery. Doss was also a little impatient. He directly ordered his men to deal with it. Then, Miller was beaten up and thrown into the space chamber. As the air was quickly drawn away, Miller also gradually felt the fear of suffocation. Just when he was about to pass out, 2 guns suddenly came to him. It turned out that after his companion learned of the news, he managed to rescue him. On the other hand, after a few days of travel, Doss finally arrived at the space station. In order to prevent whether the other party is fraudulent, Horton confronted John with Ellie and told the truth along the way. After learning of the news, John did not get angry with Horton and others. Instead, he let them testify in court to prove that this series had nothing to do with Mars, and John could use it to return to the United Nations. Sure enough, there is no free lunch in the world. Horton did not want to risk his life for John. The 2 sides immediately drew their swords, and as Doss, he was ready. Under Horton's order, all weapons were aimed at the space station. John was in danger. He could only become a hostage and be taken to Roche. Then he told the truth. Just when Miller thought he was going to die, a phone call came suddenly. It turned out to be a friend working at the airport. He told Miller that a shuttle on Anubis had come to the ancient star. From the registration information, Anubis has never left since he went to the Love Star. If you want to continue the investigation, the Love Star is a must. With the information of his companion, Miller finally got up again. After packing up, he still stepped on the shuttle to the Love Star. At the same time, because of the video sent by Horton, it caused a big wave in the entire galaxy. The Earth Alliance has been trying to prevent the outbreak of war. It's just that they're far apart. They can't get in touch with Horton, and whether Horton can be trusted or not is unknown. In order to determine whether Horton is the extremist who triggered the war, he found Horton's mother, who was on Earth. He wants to learn about Horton's past from here and use it to analyze his personality to ensure that Horton's policy in the future. Under the explanation of his mother, Anubis believes that Horton has no intention of rebelling against the Earth and uploaded his own conclusion. However, the UN Secretary-General did not thank him for this. Now the situation is tense. They can't get him to clear the relationship. It can also effectively prevent the outbreak of war. In a few words, Horton's retreat is getting more and more blind. It's a lot safer. But when the four of Horton think so, Naomi suddenly found out. I don't know when, but Rochelle has been sending signals out. This will definitely attract the attention of the Mars patrol team. Horton rushed to the base to check. There is a secret rule in the Mars warship. Those Mars spacecraft that work on the layout like to pretend to be themselves. They have a set of their own special codes. As long as the content is successfully checked, the patrol team will think that this is a secret mission and will never come to disturb again. It's just simple. Where are they going to find the code book? Fortunately, before Dafu died, he gave a key to Horton. With this key, before the patrol team boarded the inspection, Horton and others finally found the code book. Sure enough, after the code, the patrol team withdrew immediately. It's a crisis like this. It was a close call. The rest of the trip was supported by the code. Everyone arrived at their destination very smoothly. However, when everyone arrived at the coordinates provided by John, they didn't scan for a spaceship at all. There was only a small planet marked. After a brief discussion, they decided to check the planet. Sure enough, they found a hidden spaceship in it. This reminds Horton that both Kent and Donaghy were destroyed by this hidden spaceship. To find out the truth, a few people wore spacesuits and went to check on this abandoned spaceship. However, when they came to the spaceship, they didn't find any living people at all. Instead, they found a spacesuit of a member of the Maritime Guard in the shipwreck. On a mysterious spaceship, how could there be clothes of other spaceships? It really made everyone confused. As they continued to go deeper, everyone decided to split up. Horton and Naomi opened the power room, and Moss came to the driver's seat. It was here that they finally found out the name of this spaceship. It turned out to be Anubis, which Miller was looking for. And when everyone looked closely, Horton and Naomi, who were in the power room, found something strange. A mysterious substance was tightly wrapped around the nuclear power plant. After restoring the power of the spaceship, Horton and Naomi rushed forward to check what the substance was. At this time, Naomi suddenly found that the mysterious substance began to emit light and began to move constantly. The two immediately realized the crisis and ran back to the entrance and turned off the power again. As the power system was turned off, the mysterious substance was slowly extinguished. After this exploration, Horton and Naomi finally learned some information. Anubis left the Earth Satellite Research Institute and was preparing to go to the Love Star. And not long ago, the Earth Satellite Research Institute was leaked by an unknown poison gas. No one on the planet survived. Obviously, someone hid the truth, and those strange substances must have been brought out from the Earth Satellite Research Institute. For the safety of all humans, before leaving, Horton ordered the first missile to completely destroy Anubis. And next, they need to go to the Love Star. And the short-range shuttle can't fly far. It can only go to the Love Star. With the departure of the Rochelle spacecraft, Horton and Mila, two people who have never met, will meet at the Love Star. After Mila arrived at the Love Star, she immediately found Anubis and used some means to successfully find the driver shuttle on the information log. The person who picked it up was Leon, and found the location of Leon's registered hotel on it. And when Mila rushed to the hotel, Horton, who also arrived at the Love Star, also came to the hotel and gave an excuse to Leon's friend. They successfully found Leon's room. However, before a few people came, the spy who had been escorted suddenly escaped the scene, and a few strangers appeared in the hotel, who took out a gun and fired at Horton and others. It turned out that as soon as they arrived at the Love Star, the spies had been contacting their companions to escape. This time, they finally found a chance. And just after Horton opened the door, everyone found that the whole room was black, as if no one lived there at all. However, a strange smell did lead everyone to the bathroom. Here, a woman was already infected and died lying down. It turned out that the beginning of everything was the task of Julie to receive Dawes, leading the Horton transport ship to intercept a small transport ship. The ship was carrying the latest weapon developed by her father's Mao group. However, when they approached, they found that Anubis was an advanced warship, and Horton naturally could not be the opponent. It was easily captured by Anubis. In order to prevent the news from leaking, the Anubis crew cleaned Horton, and Julie, as the daughter of the chairman, was not killed, but was locked in the cabin. In the cabin, Julie heard the plan of the crew. In order to prevent information from being leaked, they decided to install sedatives on Horton and destroy all the ships on the line. As long as the war broke out, no one would notice the Dark God's star as long as the Mars and Earth were demonstrated. After learning about the other party's plan, Julie immediately used an emergency rescue device to send players to John, who was far away in the space station. However, as time went by, Julie, who was short of water, fell into a coma. When she woke up again, there was a major change on the spaceship. She carefully opened the cabin door and made sure that no one was there. She was about to leave, but accidentally touched a mysterious liquid in her hand. It turned out to be a fluid in the cable. I just don't know why it was glowing, and there was no Julie. She checked it in private, but found that there was no crew on Anubis. As she went deeper, she finally opened the power cabin door. What caught her eye was that she sent a location coordinate to OPA for the rest of her life. Then she drove a shuttle to the Love Star to wait for rescue. But as time went by, Julie finally found that she had been infected, and there was an unknown liquid growing on her body. As the light shone, the substance began to spread all over her body. She smashed everything that could glow, but still failed to stop the substance from spreading. In the end, she died in the room in pain. After clearing everything up, she found the remains of Julie, and she didn't want to stay anymore. She was ready to continue the investigation. After all, she had come this far. The truth will always be revealed. Obviously, Julie's father was the person in charge of the mysterious biochemical weapon. It was definitely the next clue. But what Horton and others didn't know was that just before they left, Julie's father sent someone to the hotel. His daughter's death did not stop the old man's plan. He sent technicians to extract the mutated virus in Julie's body, and, under the arrangement of technicians, he was going to spread it on the Love Star to get more experimental data. Shortly after, Horton and others trapped on the Love Star received the broadcast information that all ports on the Love Star were blocked because a spaceship was blown up on the Love Star. Officials claimed that dangerous substances were leaked and asked people to enter the shelter. The whole Love Star was in complete chaos, and Horton and others who were hiding realized that something was wrong. This was obviously another tragic case. They had to leave as soon as possible, and Miller was eavesdropping on the conversation between the security guards. He seemed to know the real reason why the spaceship was blown up. Now, the truth is right in front of him. He didn't want to give up. So Horton asked his companion to board the spaceship first, and he found out the truth with Miller and then came back to meet everyone. Soon, Horton and Miller successfully sneaked into the shelter, and here they finally found the official secret. The so-called shelter was actually for the people who had been sheltered recently to inject the virus and then receive a large dose of radiation. The security guards and the people of Mao's group confronted each other. In order not to let the news leak out, they were going to leave the security guards waiting to die. Horton and Miller, who were listening to everything behind the scenes, also finally knew that all this was planned by Julie's father. The angry security guards had a fierce fight with the group's men, and Horton and Miller took this opportunity to sneak into the elevator. And finally, with the help of their teammates, the two finally boarded the Roxy and left the Love Star. And as the spaceship flew away, the full appearance of the Love Star was also shown to the public. At this moment, the entire planet had been completely devoured by the biochemical virus, and Horton, who had escaped, continued to wander to continue his journey to reveal the true face of the group.